What's up, guys, and welcome to episode 2 of the Yard podcast. I'm your host, Randy,
And I'm your host, Konu.
and we've got a lot to talk about. We're not trying to
Yes, we do.
go take an hour and 15 minutes of your time today. We read those reviews, so I'm going to try to not talk so much. Konu, you've got to talk
I'm going to
more.
try to talk some more. Yes.
You need to talk some more, but thank you to everyone who's listened, who's reviewed it, who's rated it. First episode, and we had very closely broken the 200 mark coming into tonight's recording. It was at 199, so thank you to everyone who made that happen. We
Much
really
appreciated,
appreciate it.
guys.
Yes. So let's jump into this. But really quickly, if you guys want to find us on Twitter or Instagram, mine is Randy with an I _ Radcliffe, Twitter and Instagram.
And my Twitter, Instagram is Michael Konu, MykalKonu.
All right, so let's get into this. First,
Before we start,
oh yeah,
before we start, I just want to send out my best wishes to Trey Mancini of the Orioles. He's currently going through chemo for stage 3 pancreatic cancer. Get well soon, Trey, and I hope you kick cancer's ass.
yeah, a huge shout out to him. He's been fighting through it and kind of keeping fans involved in what's
Updated.
going on. So it's
Yeah.
cool that he's willing to put so much out there for us to hear what's going on in their lives, because they're normal people just like us, and sometimes I feel like we do a bad job of remembering that as fans.
Yes, yes, we do.
So last week, on Wednesday morning, so of course we talked about the Red Sox cheating scandal very quickly Tuesday night, and then Wednesday morning they dropped the quote unquote punishment for the Red Sox and what they were doing. I know you had plenty to say about this, so do you want to start?
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, well, first I'll start with the punishment. And the punishment was a loss of a 2020 second round draft pick, the ban of replay operator JT Watkins through the 2020 playoffs and from doing the same job in 2021, the ban of Alex Cora through the 2020 playoffs, but only for the conduct he did with the Astros. Now, before I get your thoughts on it and I give my thoughts, let's take a look at what Andre Ethier had to say, just in case you guys missed it. So here's what Ethier had to say to David Vassay on AM 570. I don't even know how you don't state it's a lack of control by the manager or the staff or anyone. If they're going to lay blame to one individual, a video guy, and you're going to say that the manager or coach wasn't aware of any of this going on, I find that hard to believe. There's some managers out there who are clueless and don't know what's going on in the clubhouse or dugout at times. But when there's a game going on and you're in the heat of stuff, there's at bats, there's tons of information, you've got a guy standing there on deck or in the hole. If any of you guys have seen on TV, you've seen Brent Brown or other hitting coaches have their book open and they're talking about what hitters might see, tendencies, and all that stuff being relayed. So you're going to tell me that this one guy is running up and tapping on the hitter's shoulders and speaking in other ears so the coaches can't hear? It's a typical Rob Manfred story with what we're hearing of all the other stuff coming out. I don't think we're necessarily hearing all of it. And for a guy like Alex, who a year before was in Houston, where all of the stuff was going on, I mean, where there's smoke, there's fire. Obviously, he brought the system over and knew about the system. And if you're a great conspirator, debunker, or follower, you've seen all these videos of Alex talking about Beltran, talking about Houston in code terms of all the stuff they were doing when he was in Boston and how he prepared. It's disheartening to hear. We're never going to get real results, real answers. It's just what we're used to now. Brush it under the rug and let everyone forget about it. So that's quite a statement from Ethier, and I'm curious to know how you feel about it.
I agree with him. I think most people who know and follow me have seen my rants about Manfred and how I so badly want him out of baseball. I think he's awful for baseball. I have seen what I saw on Twitter, which I found interesting, was what some fans had mentioned about the punishment wise. When you look at what the Astros did and you look at what the Red Sox did, there's no comparison except for the fact that they cheated. That's the comparison. I
Yeah,
was reading an article today and they made a very good point. I'm, of course, blanking on the article I was reading, but it's the difference between a misdemeanor and a felony. Astros are your felony, the Red Sox are your misdemeanor. They're still illegal. You're still going to get busted either way. So I I don't think we were going to ever see a fair really punishment because the
right.
bar was set so low with the Astros. So when you look at the comparison, this feels like it's an okay enough punishment, but it's only because he did so terrible with the Astros. Overall, this is awful. Imagine being the video guy. Like,
He's the
you're
one who gets the majority of the
pressured.
blame.
Yeah, you're getting
Yeah.
pressured by these major league players to, hey, do this for me, or whatever the case may be. They had even said that there were times he would try to, like, push the players away, like, hey, stop looking at my screen. Like, you just put all this, like, he was just the scapegoat of all of this. And that, I think, bugs me more than anything. I understand they weren't going to bust players. That was part of the whole agreement. But it's a pretty weak move to go after an employee like that who um, was probably pressured into this. And those guys are treated like family, but they're not players. He was part of the traveling staff, and I guess he had a very good connection with the team. But at the end of the day, like, the players are going to protect their own, and if that means throwing an employee under the bus, that's exactly what they're going to do, and that's what happened.
So I kind of want to give my 2 cents on the whole thing. And so, like, I know the report said what the Red Sox did wasn't to the level of the Astros. It wasn't as egregious, and that it didn't happen in the playoffs, and they only used the system when, like, a runner was on second base. But the Red Sox had been caught just the previous year cheating. They stole signs and were relaying it through electronic devices like Apple Watches. So the fact they got caught and decided, F that, we are going to cheat again and do it in a different manner, this should have gotten a bigger punishment. And for that, I think Manfred is incredibly soft. The Astros players should have been suspended, and the Red Sox should have lost more than a second-round pick and putting all the blame on the coordinator. How does this punishment deter them, or any team for that matter, from doing this? Now, I'm sure there are other teams who do what the Red Sox did in 2018, but I think it shows a pattern of how they operate. And, like, so this has been 2 cheating incidents now, right?
Yes. You go
So
back to 2017.
They've gotten away with 2 cheating incidents, and I don't understand how the punishment wasn't more than what it was. And as far as Alex Cora goes, I think he should be banned. He was part of the cheating Astros, and then the very next year he did it again with the Red Sox. And it's blatantly clear to me that he has no integrity. Now, I get it. Most teams, quote unquote, cheat to give them an advantage, but he's been caught twice.
Yeah, I think for me, that's where you kind of have to draw the line, because the way for me, the whole thing, this scandal was, I just wanted it to be over with. Like we said last week on the podcast, I don't think we were beating the Red Sox either way. My anger is not, I'm not even really that mad. If I am mad about the Red Sox, it's because I'm just so pissed off about the Astros. What the Red Sox did cheating wise is, obviously I have no facts to back this, but I have a feeling that's happening around a lot of the league. But the difference is you got caught. So whether or not every other team's doing it, those other teams didn't get caught. And now MLB knows, like, hey, this is going on. We have to do something about it. Although I think they knew, but now the fans know that they know. So now they have to act like they care. But the last thing, I don't want to stay on this too long because I'm sure it's just going to piss people off.
Right.
The one thing I did find interesting that someone said on Twitter was that, Manfred would never want to taint a historic franchise like the Boston Red Sox. Houston doesn't have that type of history. You can go and say whatever you want and taint them. The Red Sox, the Yankees, the Dodgers, the Cubs, teams like that, the Giants, that's a big hit to MLB when you start busting those teams hard. And I think the Red Sox might have gotten away with it because they are a very important team to baseball history. And it might sound ridiculous that I'm using that as a point, but I feel like where we're at, you cannot put anything past Manfred because all he cares about is his top dollar at the end of the day.
And I have one more thing to say about Cora before we move on. Okay, so, like, Pete Rose was banned for betting on games and betting on his own team. Now, to me, Alex Cora, his wrongdoings actually affected outcomes of games. That's by far way worse than anything Pete Rose did, and Pete Rose has been banned. So, to me, Alex Cora should be banned. But I don't think he will be. And
no,
I think
he won't.
After the 2020 season, when he's eligible, I think some team will hire him.
Yep, I wouldn't doubt it, but I don't know. It's bad.
What can we do, right?
Go listen to Joe off air with Joe and Oral. Listen to Oral's comments on the cheating scandal with the Astros. I know it's irrelevant to the Red Sox scandal, but make sure you guys listen to that episode. Highly suggest it. Hershiser hit it right on the head, which I think a lot of fans weren't able to totally understand until he put it in that
Yeah.
those words.
Perspective.
It
Yeah.
was emotional, but it's very worth the listen, and I think it helps kind of bring everything full circle and make a little bit more sense of why all of this is as hard as it is on players more so than anyone else. But we do have, I guess it depends on your thoughts on how you feel about coronavirus and everything, but we do have some good news, you could say. They expect baseball to be back in 2020. And I say you could say that's good news because I've seen plenty of fans talk about it on Twitter. You have half your group saying, who cares? Give me baseball. I don't care. Throw the players back out there. I need my sports. Then you have the other half that's just no season till 2021. It's not worth the injuries, all that kind of stuff. Both sides, I understand the point.
It's not worth players catching corona.
Yeah, no, I understand both arguments, but I am on the
Yeah.
side that players need to be safe, but I am also on the side that if the players are willing to do it and they are okay with it, then I'm okay with it happening. If MLB's
But tests and stuff need to be in place for that to happen.
yeah, if MLB's like, okay, we're playing, and the union's like, no, I don't want to, then I'm on the player's side, and I'm going to be like,
Yeah.
okay, it's time to cancel the season. This isn't about MLB. It's not about the fans. It's about the guys that are putting their lives on the line.
But if the players are willing to play, then by all means, let's go have baseball.
Yeah, so there was a lot that came out in the last few days, but mostly
Yes.
Jeff Passan's article yesterday. That was a long article, but he hit pretty much everything you need to know what's going on. Basically, in his words, it's not about when the season, or it's not about if the season's going to start. It's about when it'll start. And it includes a long list of very important people, which is your league officials, players, union leaders, owners, doctors, politicians, all the big important people that are involved in this all think that this is going to happen. They believe it's going to happen.
In July.
Yeah, they're hoping to have a set plan by the end of May, but it's not like hey, you have to have this done by the end of May, but they would like to because they believe they will have a better idea of what teams can do with their employees at that point, the revenue they're bringing in, all that kind of stuff, because it changes when you don't have TV. It changes when you don't have fan and souvenirs being bought in the stadium to pay your employees. So I'm not making excuses. I still think they should figure it out and they need to pay their employees and these players need to get paid. But it changes things. So owners want it.
One note I have, and I'm sorry to cut you off, but one note that I found very interesting was that the scenario that they would have a World Cup style tournament to determine a champion. How do you feel about that?
I like it better than nothing. I think
Yeah.
it would make it very intense and every single game matters. I am a baseball purist. I don't like to see much changing. However, in a time like this, we are not going to have traditional baseball no matter how hard we want to. So I am okay with it. But I feel like there's so many different things that they've mentioned at this point that I kind of feel like fans don't even care whether you're doing it tournament style, you're breaking up the divisions into all West, all Central, all East, and playing like just those 10 teams. Like, I don't even think fans care, and I'm at that point. Like, I just, if it's healthy and safe for the players to play, I just want them to play.
You just want baseball.
Yeah, I want to watch it.
For the tournament, this is how the tournament is going to break down. So October 1st to the 20th, every team plays a 4-game series against each division opponent with a day off in between, and the 2 best teams from each division will advance. October 22nd through October 31st, the 6 American League teams that advance will go to one ballpark, and the 6 National League teams will gather at another ballpark. They play each other. They play each of the other 5 teams twice. So just think of it as like a 2-game series with the other 5 teams. And they play in a round-robin format with a collective day off in the middle. The 4 teams with the best record in each league will advance. In the meantime, the remaining 18 teams, 9 in each league, will meet at a hub and play 1 game against the rest of the teams there. The winner of that round robin regains entry into the playoffs. In the case of a tie, they will hold a winner advances 1 game play-in to the playoffs. Now, November 2nd, the play-in winner will face the number 4 seed. The winner from that advances to face the number 1 seed. November 3rd through the 9th, we get back to like regular style baseball. It's the 5-game division series, a day off between games 2 and 3. November 11th through 19th is a 7-game LCS, and then November 21st to the 29th is the World Series. It'll all happen in 60 days.
That to me is what's crazy. The craziest part is all of that going on is the fact that it would all happen in such a short amount of time. But
Right.
again, if that's what has to be done, give me my baseball.
Yeah. I think like this format, it's kind of exciting. Like it works for soccer because every single game matters. So it will be kind of fun. But at the same time, the Dodgers tend to start off real slow, so this could really backfire for them.
Yeah, it would be interesting to kind of see how every team works with this. You could see teams in the playoffs that would usually have no chance in
Like
the
the
regular
Royals or
season.
something.
Yeah, because you just don't know when it's that few games, anything can happen.
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll have to see what happens. If they don't have baseball this season, it's going to hurt the league. It's going to hurt the players. Instead of a collective salary of $4 billion, the players now get 170 if the season's canceled.
Right.
The CBA expires after the 2021 season, so you'll have owners trying to fight, not wanting to give their money in free agency because they want to recoup it, and then you have the new CBA, which is going to piss players off, and they're not going to want to do any. It's a lot of.
It's a lot.
It could be a lot of problems that come out of this, but
Hassan mentioned something you mentioned last week, in that players will be going into a depressed market because there is no income of cash coming in. So that could potentially hurt free agents.
yeah, and that's the problem.
So you hit the nail right on the head on that one.
Yeah, and that's the problem. And then you, like I mentioned, and that's where the CBA issue comes in, because you have players not being able to get their money, and then they don't want to sit around and be like, hey, well, we want this, and the owners are telling them, no, we don't have that, you're not worth that, and then you have to go sign a new collective bargaining agreement.
Yeah.
I just don't know how well that's going to go, but we'll see what happens. I would be excited to have baseball back. I know every other fan would feel probably the same. I'm sure there's some that think it's a bad idea, and I will say it's not a great idea, but I understand what they're trying to do. So we'll see what happens. I'm excited just at the idea of watching baseball.
Yeah. Okay, so today, Bob Nightingale also came out with his own story, and for the most of part, it was more of just confirming what Passan had said the previous day. But he brought up a few interesting points, and that Nightingale said that MLB teams will be playing in their own park. I'm not sure that would happen, especially in California. I think those teams would have to move to like Arizona or Texas. But he also brought up a new alignment for divisions. He was thinking there's going to be 3 divisions, 10 teams each, and that the divisions will basically be NL West, AL West, NL Central, AL East, NL East, and just combine those teams into one division, and you have 10 teams in 3 divisions.
Yeah, not be super interesting to see how that plays out with the Dodgers and the Astros in the same division.
Exactly. My only thing is it wouldn't mean as much because there are no fans.
All I gotta say is,
if there were fans, it would be just a tremendous spectacle to watch. But I am interested to see how the Dodgers players would treat the Astros after all that.
well, my take on it is Gratterall better be on the team at that point. But
Little beanball action.
Yeah, you know what? I'm usually
Bites of Bregman's ribs?
Usually I try to stay away from retaliation because I don't want to see anyone get seriously injured.
Right.
Stay away from the head. Preferably stay away from like anything major, like kneecaps, stuff like that. But I just, they took it too far. It's not even about like, oh, you said something mean to our player when he slid into second. Like, it's just, this is a totally different level. So yes, I would absolutely love to see them. I don't want to see anyone get hurt because that's not the ultimate goal of all of this. But I do want to have that tiny bit of satisfaction. Like, thank you. At least we got something out of it. But I don't want to see anyone get hurt. I'm sure people aren't going to be totally happy with that opinion because it is the Astros.
Do you know what's irritated me the most?
What?
It's Alex Bregman.
Oh,
how
yeah.
cocky he was. and just like he's God's gift to earth, and he's the greatest thing going. The way he looks into the camera, all smug, and it's like you were cheating this
Yeah.
whole time.
That guy's
I need
confidence.
him to get some comeuppance. I really do.
Yeah. That guy's confidence is on a whole different planet, and it's not even confidence that he has yet
It's not
rightfully
warranted,
deserved. Like, you know,
right?
I don't think he's a bad player. I don't think any of those guys are bad players. I'm sure
No,
they would all be pretty good players had they not cheated, but I will never be able to look at Bregman, Altuve, Correa, any of those guys and say, oh, they had a good season this year, and not question that they did something illegal, because that's just how it's going to be moving forward. So if the Dodgers play them, I think it'll be fun. It'll be different without fans. Like you said, I almost think they'd be less willing to throw at a guy without fans there, because you hear
because the
everything.
fans really pump them up.
Yeah, and you hear everything. You're going to hear every
Yeah,
yell that comes from the dugout. It's going to end up on TV. It's going to end up, you don't want to brawl because you don't want players touching each other. So
that's true.
I don't
That's
know
true.
how far it would go. But I'm sure teams are going to hit them either way. And
I was gonna say I was kind of hoping for a little bit of a brawl, and if there was a brawl, I would. The Dodgers should have really acquired Amir Garrett somehow because he will fight the whole team by himself, and I want somebody like that on my team.
well, you know who could possibly take care of that for us, and we
Joe
wouldn't.
Kelly.
Well, no, but I will, without
Oh,
us getting in trouble for once. If they want to, if I'm skipping really quickly because this just tends to fit in, but you
yeah,
know, if Yasiel Puig signs with with the Giants, like the reports are saying, they'd be in the West too. And I know Puig's pretty angry about those Astros cheating. So, um,
is he?
if
I
he
haven't seen
wants
anything.
well, I remember when it first came out, Puig came out saying that him and Bellinger were sitting in the dugout during the World Series hearing bangs, and they were talking to each other. And Puig was like, what
Oh,
the hell is that? Where's that coming from? And him and Cody heard it. So yeah, he's not, understandably so, he's not happy about it. I guarantee his entire career changes if they win
yeah.
that year. He's probably still a Dodger. Um,
You think
so
so?
yeah, I think a lot of guys that aren't on, I know we haven't lost too many, but I think a lot of things change. I don't think the Alex Verdugo trade happens because the front office doesn't have the pressure to go after a big guy to win a World
Yeah.
Series.
Okay. No, that's fair.
I don't think Puig ends up getting traded because I don't,
I still think he does. I think his time was. I think his time was up. I think they
maybe he
got tired of
does.
the act,
Yeah, maybe he
and it was
does.
just time to go.
I just wonder mentally what that would have done for him if he had won. Like, you
Yeah.
just don't know if that would have, for some guys like Puig, if he could have won, like that could have been his taste. Like, I've done this before, I can do it again. And maybe it would have totally locked him down. Who knows? Maybe he would have been like, hey, I got my ring. Cool. I got everything I wanted. Now let's just get my money. I don't think he'd be like that. But I don't know. I feel like you never know how things play out. Like, maybe Manny Machado is never a Dodger if we won in 2017.
Because there's no pressure anymore.
Yeah,
You've won the big one.
yeah, like maybe, I mean, they didn't really give up much for Machado, I feel like.
No,
So maybe they do go after him because it's not like they had to give up any big names for him. But
they
you
did
just,
give up like a top outfield prospect though in Diaz,
yeah,
who I know a lot of people liked.
yeah. So they did give up some decent, but not when you're looking at who we got out of it. So I don't know. It'll be interesting. I'm sure every team wants a piece of the Astros. That if we're gonna play all the teams in the West, that's great because that gives the Angels, the Rangers, the A's, and I think how many? Who else isn't that? I'm so bad with the American League. Who else is in that division, or did I say them all? I don't know. Anyways,
The American League West.
yeah, the
Yeah,
A's,
the
Rangers,
Astros, the
Houston.
Angels, the Mariners, the
That's the
Rangers,
Mariners. That's what I forgot.
Mariners.
You're gonna have
Yeah,
their whole
we're kind of
division.
bad.
You're gonna have their whole division pissed off too, because
Yeah,
those guys, those teams lost games to them that they were cheated against, and they played them 20-ish times a year. They probably also lost out in potential wild card spots. Because I don't think anyone was going to get close enough to the Astros record in 2017.
right.
To win the division, but they could have been in the wild card.
Especially the A's because they've been really close. They've played really good baseball, but they've missed just by like a few games.
Yeah, so That would be a lot of fun. So
Uh,
let's
Real
go.
quick,
Oh,
so like ESPN is close to acquiring rights to Korean baseball. So like I know it's not MLB, but this could be a way for us to watch baseball until MLB comes back. So I would be all for it. And I have never seen a Korean baseball game, so I'm kind of interested to see how that would go.
what? Sorry, when is that starting again? It starts in like a week, doesn't it? Or is it this?
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah, no, that'll be cool. So everybody should check that out. It's something different. I read on Twitter to go into it and just appreciate it for what it is. Do not expect it to be like American baseball. Otherwise, you're going to just sit there and critique it. It's a different game. They play it differently. It's still baseball, but they play it
I
a
feel
little.
like they show more emotion though, from
Oh,
the clips
yeah.
I've seen.
Oh, yeah. But, oh,
They're
yeah.
allowed to have more fun.
Yes, they are. And not that they'll have fans there, but
Right.
those games get wild, crazy loud.
I love the way they pimp home runs. It
Yeah.
is absolutely amazing.
Yeah, they have a lot of character. They're fun to watch. MLB needs more of that, but
Please, shout out to Tim Anderson. You holding it down for us.
oh
Much
yeah.
appreciated.
Yeah, I love Tim Anderson just
He's
cuz
great.
yeah, I love him. Uh
Just because he doesn't care, he just goes out there and does his thing.
yep, that's all he just wants to have fun.
Yeah,
If you don't want to get bat flipped on or have someone throw a bat, don't give up a home run. It's pretty simple. If you don't want someone to celebrate, don't give them a reason to.
my
Uh
thoughts exactly.
but for a lot of fans, some good news did come out today, or I guess it depends on how the Dodgers feel to handle it. But MLB is now allowing teams to start refunding their tickets for the 2020 season. At first, MLB's policy was we don't refund for postponed games, we only refund for canceled games, and they were considering them postponed because they still plan on playing them even if they don't happen in that exact order, schedule, teams, whatever the case may be. They are now preparing to allow teams to issue new ticket policies to facilitate refunds for games missed due to coronavirus. However, every team will be able to set their own policies, and nobody really knows yet if the league has put a time frame on how quickly teams have to have this policy out and information to their fans. So it'll still be very interesting. I think as a Dodger fan, this is going to be a lot to look at because you have to realize how much of that money they were looking to put into those renovations.
Right.
And so they have so much money. It's not like I feel bad. I think they're like worth $4 billion. So, but I just wonder how
It has to be second behind the Yankees, right?
yeah, they are. Yeah. I don't know how they're going to do it. I have super cheap season tickets. Like I think the second cheapest ones they have, I paid like $1,400 for 81 games, and then I paid about $500 to get my All-Star game, home run derby, the fan fest thing, all of that. So
That's still a lot of money though.
yeah, but that's $2,000. It's a decent amount of money.
Yeah.
But that's top deck. Look at them trying to refund $10,000 field level seats, 15, 20,000, 30,000. Like those seats aren't cheap. I have friends that have them. Some of them pay $10,000 a seat to have those field level seats. I imagine they have to refund 50 grand to one family. Like it's going to be interesting to see how the Dodgers are able to pull this off because they have a lot of season ticket holders. The Dodgers, we all know, are not cheap for the fans. Well, I should say they are cheap, but they're not inexpensive when it comes. So I think theirs might be a little bit more interesting than the rest of the league.
So what you're saying is that it's going to be difficult for them to be able to pay that back considering there's no money coming in?
I don't know if it will. That's what I'm saying will be interesting because if they don't have that cash flow, how are they going to all of a sudden give? It's not like this was it. Like you have to give that cash back to people. Like mine was, It's all paid on a debit card. Like it's cash. You can't if they try to tell people we will credit you, I think people are going to absolutely lose their mind because nobody wants to be credited, especially when you have the government and CDC and everyone saying sports aren't going to resume with fans until there's a vaccine. Like, you're not going to tell me you're going to give me a credit for a season that we don't even know. I think there'll be baseball, but just based on what CDC government's saying, I don't want credit for a potential season that I can't even go to the games.
Right. And even in 2021, that might be pushed back with no fans because who's to say there's a vaccine that will happen in between that time?
And that's just too much money for me.
Right.
I can't afford to just let them keep my money and have it sitting there. So I'll be keeping an eye on that. I have not heard anything. I have not gotten an email from them. They have not really kept us updated. They apparently have a website we can go to. I haven't even bothered to look at it. I guess that's on me, though. I kind of feel like everything we have do with them seems to be too complicated. It always seems like it's a pain in the ass, whether it's getting refunds from them. And it's not like the individual employee's fault. Like, I try very hard not to get frustrated with the employees because they're dealing with the screwed up system just like we are.
As well, yeah.
But yeah, I wish I didn't feel this way, and I wish I had more faith in the Dodgers as a business, but I just don't. As a business, as an organization, as an organization, I love them. I like what they stand for. I think they do great for the community. I love the players, but as a business, I have no faith whatsoever that they will do the right thing when they're supposed to. I hope I'm wrong, because I know there's plenty of fans who need that money. There's plenty of employees who need to be paid.
Money,
but yeah.
Speaking of employees, though, there was something that came out that said the Dodgers are paying non-playing employees through May 31st.
Yes, that's a mouthful. Paying non-playing employees. Whew, okay. Yes, they did say that. They announced it on Friday. I swore I read somewhere that said they were supposed to email employees that day about the May 31st stuff. I could be wrong, but I swore I read that. And I
have no emails.
Yes. I reached out prior to this recording. They have still not emailed their employees. They have still not told them about the May 31st thing. The employees only found out due to social media and that good stuff. So that's kind of frustrating, from not that I'm an employee, but just it's
a little sketchy to me. Like, if you have done it, then why have you not sent your employees an email saying that you have done it?
Yeah, I mean, it's just, I'm not expecting like a whole breakdown. You don't need to tell me like, hey, like, but just that way you can take that stress off your employees. Let them know, hey, we wanted to let you know we're still working out the details, but we will be paying you May 31st. Granted, let's hope this one email to this person that I reached out to just like didn't get lost somewhere and they did send it out. Otherwise, I'm going to sound really stupid if any other employee hears this. But that person's usually pretty on top of everything and getting me the info when it comes to that stuff. So I have a feeling that is actually what ended up happening, and they just haven't sent it out. They were also one of the last teams to announce that they were going to do that as well, too. So who knows?
Now, like, I'm happy that they're doing this, if this is true. But at the same time, I really wish they would have gone the Padres route in paying employees throughout the season, no matter what happens. I think that's the way to go. You're the second richest team behind the Yankees. It makes no sense for you not to be able to do this, and the Padres can do this.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's plenty of those employees who would be like, you know what? Just pay us the entire year, even if you can't pay us a total, like, great amount. I'm sure any of those employees would be willing to take anything you give them instead of saying, sorry, we're just going to give you nothing. Like, instead, break it down, and instead of paying them just for 1 month, like, find a way to, I don't know. I don't know how all of it works. It's more complicated than, of course, what I'm just thinking. But either way, I just want it to be figured out. That's really all I care about.
Pay your employees, Dodgers. Come on.
Yeah, that's all I care about. We did have some somewhat kind of scary news as a fan base last week. Vin Scully fell in his home last Tuesday and he was hospitalized. I believe we found out about it on Thursday was when the Dodgers told us. But Vin, being the guy he is, always making the best of every situation, made a joke about, he said, I won't be doing any more headfirst sliding. I never liked it. So, as always, Vin finding a way to just make the best of a not so great situation.
He's a
And
great guy.
yeah, and to just, you know what, he's always going to talk baseball to us instead of just that's him. You're never just going to get Vince Scully fell. There's always going to be baseball involved. I love him.
Right. Did
He's
you hear his what he said to the fans after getting home?
Yes, I did. I unfortunately haven't learned how to play audio on here yet. So if you guys want to see that, I would imagine it's on Instagram, but I know for a fact it's on the Dodgers Twitter. But he basically was just saying how he was happy to be home. He thanked the fans for their thoughts and prayers. Uh, he made a joke that he was actually called out when he slid head first. And so and then he, of course, because he's a great guy as he always is, he thanked all the first responders and essential workers for what they're doing. And the part that got me, that I got very emotional, was, of course, him saying, sooner or later, you're going to hear it'll be time for Dodger baseball. So
It's just always great to hear his voice, no matter what he's talking about. He's the voice of baseball. Period. That's how I feel. And every time he speaks, no matter what he's talking about, it's just a good time. It brings you back to your childhood, watching Dodgers baseball, and it's just always great to hear Vin's voice.
It is. So definitely check out that video. It'll make you feel good to hear his voice during a time where we could use just about anything baseball, but Vin Scully makes it 100 times better. All right, we gotta push through a little bit. We talk too much. I talk too much. Roberts, did you hear about what he was wanting to do? If there's a 2020 season,
he wanted 35 to 40 players on the roster.
Yeah,
when the season begins.
Yeah. Longer layoff times, wants to avoid roster injuries. Obviously, got to give pitchers more of a break if you're having back-to-back days of games, and if you have extra innings, if they do go the doubleheader route, obviously back-to-back games happens anyways, but there's going to be less off days if they go this route. And hey, at the end of the day, I'm all for it. Give me 35, 40-man roster. The Dodgers are going to kill it. No team is putting...
Especially with the Dodgers' depth, yes, absolutely.
Yeah, no other team is putting out a better 35 to 40-man roster. It won't even be close. So, hey, if that's what they want to do, I'm all for it.
Right. So, like, my thoughts on the situation is that Roberts does make a good point that the longer layoff, the better idea of having an expanded roster is, because it'll keep players relatively fresh, especially with the possibility, like you said, of having a ton of doubleheaders to even come close to that 162-game schedule. This could prevent players from having major injury problems or injuries at all. And because of the Dodgers' depth, I, for one, will be all for this. But on the other hand, I can kind of see the commissioner probably saying no, because the expanded rosters make the games go a little longer. And that's a big reason why now in September there's a limit to roster expansion, and why there's now a rule where a pitcher can't face just one hitter. He has to face a minimum of 3 batters. So I can unfortunately see Manfred being the, that he is. He could probably veto this and just say no.
Yeah. So we'll see. They might have to go that route anyways, because, well, if they do go that route, you're pretty much canceling the minor league season because they're going to need them. They're probably canceling the minor league season anyway. So this would be a great way to keep those guys employed who would be going to AAA, AA, and have them keep playing, because when 2021 rolls around, you don't want your top prospects just like have wasted an entire season. So
especially for players who are super close to the big leagues, like a Cody Thomas or a Zach McKinstry, or even the pitcher,
Josiah Gray.
His name, Josiah Gray. Thank you.
So yeah, any of those guys could be huge. To lose an entire year off their development could really kind of set them back. So I know that this would be helpful on that end, and just the fact the Dodgers have the depth. So we'll see. There's so many different plans that they have come out with. There's the 3-state plan, the 3-division plan in 3 different states. There's all of them in 1 state, put them in 2 different states, put them in 5 different states, and let them there's so many different things, but
so many different plans.
There's a couple Dodgers who don't care and just want to play baseball. Stripling, he's all for it. He understands, though, that players' biggest concerns would be having to leave family for quite some time. However, he does believe that most players would be on board with this plan if it's the only way they get baseball. So
Right.
sounds like from what he has had talking to other players, he was on a podcast, spoke about this. He wants it. Same thing with Kike. It's a totally different situation for Kike, but Kike's going to be hitting free agency for the first time. This is like the one time of your career, besides like getting called up and getting drafted. This is a big moment for players that they are
This
guaranteed it.
is a very important year for Kike because he can get a lot of money, and if he's able to showcase that he can play every day, he's going to get a lot of money from a certain team, from a team like the Giants, for example.
Yeah, it could be. Whether or not it's the Dodgers, another team, every player needs to get out there. And someone like Kike, who hasn't been able to play every day and put a full season under his belt, I think last year was like one of his kind of
He played the most games.
maybe. I don't. 2018, 2019, I felt like he played way more than he had prior. But he needs to get out there. He needs to showcase what he can do, and he wants to make his money. He obviously understands how hard it would be. His biggest worry is what would happen with families. He mentioned his wife, Mariana would have to sit at home by herself, which again is hard, especially for them because, I mean, I guess if you have kids, that might actually be harder because then you have to take care of them, but at least you're not alone. Like, his wife would have to be alone. She can't hang out with the other Dodger wives. She can't. It's just her by herself. I don't know if he meant at the hotel or like for 3 or 4 months. But Kike did put into perspective, which was cool to see him understand that, like, he was basically saying that he's very lucky to be in the situation that he's in. Like, yes, it sucks that we don't have baseball. It sucks that my wife might have to get it home. But at the end of the day, look at the situation I'm in. A lot of people are not getting paid millions of dollars to do this thing. And so he was very much like, I'm not going to sit here and complain about this because I know
he's fortunate enough.
He's very grateful for his situation. So that was really cool that he was able to acknowledge that, because as a fan, sometimes you think that we're just these little people and they're on their own planet. But I mean, they are on their own planet. They're professional athletes, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Last night. So last night the Dodgers did a Zoom party. I joined. That was a lot of fun. I was listening to Holding Court, which is Courtney Turner's podcast, and I don't want to say Justin Turner's podcast, but he's the temporary host because she was supposed to have like different hosts every week, but obviously things kind of got messed up.
She has different hosts for her podcast.
Yeah, that was going to be her goal, I think, was to have different guests on, but Turner, Justin has been her co-host for the time being because she's not really hanging out. Like, I think she was going to bring on other wives and her friends, and like she can do that over the phone. But right now it's easier, I think, for her to have her and Justin. And I think it's a lot of fun to listen to both of them go back and forth. But so check out her podcast, Holding Court. But what they were talking about today was, so 25,000 fans signed up when the Dodgers put that out and registered. And 25,000, and they were only going to give spots to 1,000. So the Dodgers reached out to Zoom to figure out, what can we do? Can we get more? And they ended up being able to do 10,000. Maybe it was a little bit more because there was not a report, but Dodger Insider or someone with importance from the team said that there were 11,000 fans on last night's call.
That's a lot.
And it was cool because you had a lot of people. Bear with me because most fans are going to recognize all of these names, but there was quite a bit. You had Joe Kelly, Kenley Jansen, Justin Turner, Jock Peterson. I never like saying his last name. He's just Jock. So I messed up there. Yeah. But Jock, Will Smith, Dave Roberts, Joe Davis, Alana Rizzo, Oral Hershiser, Nomar, Ned Coletti, Jerry Hairston. And then you have your older players like Ron Say, Eric Karros, Steve Yeager. They went ahead and brought Dieter Ruhl, who played the national anthem, brought in Todd Lights, who does all the he's like the announcer. I guess maybe it is PA, but at the stadium, like, he does the lineups, very deep voice. You hear him talk at every game. He's that. I'm totally blanking on what the actual title is, but he came on. He was on there. It was really cool because it was almost like you were at a game because you hear his voice. Good stuff there. And then there was, of course, celebrities on there. George Lopez being my favorite of the night. There was a time
I
and
know
moment.
why.
There was a time and moment I don't think he knew, or maybe he did and he just didn't care. I don't care either way. I thought it was great. He dropped an F-bomb prior to the party starting. I think he thought he was just in the chat with the players and celebrities because it was like maybe a minute after fans were allowed to log on. He like dropped an F-bomb, but he was talking about the Astros all night. He was just like nailing them. He pulled out his guitar and made a joke that was like, whenever you hear the trash can banging, you know it's a curveball coming. And if you watch like Jock's reaction, you can see him laughing at it. So George Lopez was great.
Funny.
He was going off on the Astros all night. Nomar was having problems with his headphones, and George Lopez was like, "You should hit up Altuve. He could hook you up with all the right equipment." And so it was a really good time. Brad Paisley was on there, Jaleel White, Miles Brown, and Mario Lopez. So it was a lot of fun. They did the national anthem. You had Dieter do the national anthem. He did the 7th inning stretch. They did the cap shuffle, which was nearly impossible because it was glitching, but it was still it was still cool. They tried, and they had a lot of fun with it. The players actually seemed to enjoy being there. Anyone who watched or saw pictures all over Twitter of Joe Kelly.
With Gabe Kapler in his background?
Yeah, he changed his Zoom background to Gabe Kapler from one of Gabe Kapler's model pictures. He's in like a Speedo. He's on the beach. And Joe Kelly, it only was up like 2 minutes. I don't know if someone had said, like someone from the team was like, hey, get that down. Because Gabe Kapler was a former Dodger employee and now he's the Giants manager. But people were dying at that. It was the best. And then
Joe Kelly's a character.
Yeah, and then he ended up changing it to Tiger King. So they were having fun with it. But good news is, if you missed out on that, they will have a second one. It will be May 4th at 6 p.m. and they're going to introduce the registration. Registration will be announced at a later date. We are almost.
Do you think the same people will be able to be on, or will others get a chance?
I'm sure it'll be a lot of the same, but different players, or maybe just more. Who knows? Like maybe it'll be the same and they'll add more. But all right, we're gonna speed through these last two things super fast because we want to get to our Twitter segment, which was a lot of fun to do. So let's get through these really quickly. Players League. Gavin Lux is representing for the Dodgers. He's currently 19-10. He's sitting 7th place. Only the top 8 players will make it. His magic number is 1. So he should be in the playoffs. Shouldn't be a problem. The playoffs will begin on Friday.
May 1st.
Yeah, Friday and Saturday Friday you've got your quarterfinals. Saturday you have your other set of quarterfinals as well as your semis with the championship series on Sunday. So that should be a lot of fun. The first 2 rounds are best of 3 with the championship best of 5. So you know what? If we aren't,
those things will be aired on ESPN, ESPN2, and FS1.
Yes, that part. So check those out. I mean, hey, if Gavin Lux can bring us home an MLB The Show championship, why not? It's 2020.
We'll
Everything else has been so weird at this point, so why not?
Why not?
Oh, and I want to say congratulations to Jock and his wife, Kelsey. They announced on Saturday that they're having their second child, and I'm sure Jock is pumped because they announced today that it was a boy. So Poppy's going to be a big sister to a little brother. He was asking for name suggestions, so I'm sure he's not going to listen. But if you want to go on his Instagram post and tell him what you think his child's name should be, that would be great. And also, happy birthday to Matt Beatty. His birthday's today.
Happy birthday, Matt, and congratulations, Jock.
Yeah, and I'm actually wearing my Matt Beatty shirt because it's his birthday from that one artist. Got it on, so I love his stuff. Check it out. Very good stuff. But no more promos. We're done with the quick promo. So let's get into the Twitter segment. Do you want to go first, or do you want to give one?
Okay. Yeah, I can go first.
All right.
Okay, so the first game I chose was from Dodgers Surge, and he attended this game. And the game he chose was Cody Bellinger when he hit his first 2 career home runs. It was against the Phillies. So Bellinger hit his first career home run in the bottom of the 7th inning, and then he did it again in the 9th inning where the Dodgers went back to back to back. Puig, Belly, and Justin Turner hit home runs to tie the game at 5. before finally winning it on Adrian Gonzalez's infield single, scoring Austin Barnes. And then the second game I picked, it's different because the Dodgers actually lost this game. So it's asked me about the law, and he thinks the craziest game he's ever seen was June 30th, 1996, Dodgers versus the Rockies. Piazza, Karros, and Mondesi hit back-to-back home runs in the top of the third inning. Mondesi and Karros both hit 2 home runs on the night. I mean, there was 10 home runs combined that night with 38 total hits. Unfortunately, the Dodgers lost 16-15 in true Coors Field fashion.
Oh, it was at Coors Field. Of course it was.
Of course.
Because why wouldn't it be? So I went with 2. I went with one where the fan actually listened to the game on the radio. This was Kenners _15. Went on a road trip with her dad to Iowa. She remembers being in the front seat with her dad, just listening to the game. And of course, when you're listening to Vin, everything sounds so much better. So you can't forget that. She said it's a night she would never forget, but the night was June 3rd, 2013. Yasiel Puig's first game when he got called up for the Dodgers. He was batting leadoff, went 2 for 4 that night, had 2 singles. His first at bat, he got a base hit. So, of course, that got everyone pumped up at the game. I remember watching that game, and he brought a totally different kind of energy that the Dodgers needed. But the best part is, it wasn't even what he did with the bat. The best part of that entire game was what he did at the end of the game when he caught the ball in right field, and he caught it kind of flat-footed or off balance a little bit, you could say, and he gunned it to first. Gonzo was covering, and they turned a double play to end the inning. Or to end the game, not even end the inning, but to end the game. And so that was Puig's first game, wild as you would expect from him. But I was watching video on it, and funny enough, Dave Roberts was actually the first base coach for the Padres that game. And he was not happy that his runner back to first was called out.
I forgot he was with the Padres prior.
Yeah, so I thought that was pretty funny when I was watching it, and I was like, oh, it's Dave Roberts against the Dodgers, and he's not very happy. But, hey, whatever. Next one. I liked this one a lot. It's a very old game, but a lot of history to it. It was by Cly Alt. So it was the game. It was the first Dodgers win at Dodger Stadium. It was the first night game ever played at Dodger Stadium. So this was on April 11th, 1962. She went to the game with their dad. It was their first win of the 1962 season. So second game of the season, first win ever in Dodger Stadium, first win of that season, first night game ever. And then of course you have a guy like Sandy Koufax on the mound that night. So you're already looking at a good day. And then I look at the lineup for this game, and it has all the big names you would expect. You have Maury Wills, Jim Gilliam, Wally Moon, Duke Snyder, John Rosebohr, Ron Fairley, Darryl Spencer, Willie Davis, and then of course Sandy Koufax. It was just a regular old game, but it was special because of that game, and I thought it was really cool. And I wanted to look at Koufax's pitching line to see how well he did, and of course, through 9 innings, only gave up 4 hits, and then he gave up 2 earned runs, and those earned runs actually didn't even come until the 9th inning, and then he struck out 7 guys. So pretty cool being able to look back and kind of see, especially those games, because I remember Puig's game. I obviously was not alive for this 1962 game.
Yeah.
So it was cool to look back and kind of just see that history.
See all the Hall of Famers?
Yeah, and kind of like go through the box score of all that stuff. And interestingly enough, the attendance that night was 35,000 people. I looked, the most they had that season, I think, was like around 45,000, something like that. And it was, of course, against the Giants. So Dodger Stadium still filling up even at the very beginning. And then we're 62 years? No, that was LA. That's not Dodger Stadium. I'm not even going to attempt to do the math because I don't do math. But we had a lot of fun with that. So we're going to ask you guys a question every week that we can talk about on the podcast because we enjoyed that a lot. We want to try and get fans involved as much as possible. I did want to kind of give a positive shout out to a couple of our players and things that they're doing. I was listening again to Holding Court podcast, and she had mentioned how the Dream Center has done 400,000 meals served since all of this has begun. The Turners have been a huge help to that, donating so much food basically every single day, sending thousands of meals out there for families. We've seen Alex Wood, or the Woods, we've seen them contribute. We've seen the Kershaws, the Muncies. They've all helped donated to this cause from the Dream Center. So I know it's not all just Justin and Courtney doing that stuff, but the foundation is huge. So very proud to see our players doing that. And then I did also see Kershaw's Challenge. They're helping a nonprofit organization called Behind Every Door. That one is a Dallas-based nonprofit. And then he is also helping out with the Dream Center, as is LA. So basically they did what they considered their two hometowns, Kersh hometown and then their baseball hometown. So they're helping out. And then Clayton and Ellen are matching every dollar donated. And anyone that enters and spends, it's over now, but I thought it was really cool. What they did was for $50, you get put in for an entry to be on a Zoom call with Kershaw. So
nice.
It's really cool to see all these guys and their families and just everyone trying to come together and help as much as they can. I'm sure there's other players out there helping a ton and we're just not hearing about it. But I did hear this, and so I wanted to say that. But I think we're done for the week. But we do want to ask you guys a favor. If you can subscribe and rate the podcast, we would really appreciate it. We want to get those ratings. We want to know what we can do better. So let us know on Twitter. You can find us at Dodger Yard, Instagram, Dodger Yard. You can check out our website, DodgerYard.com. And then, of course, we've got our podcast and we've got a YouTube channel where the LA Dodger Dog, better known, well, actually, he might be better known as Dodger Dog, but his name is Alan. He teaches scorekeeping. So we've got that as well on our YouTube channel. So, but
subscribe to the YouTube channel. Check it out.
Yeah. And we will be back next week with another episode. So we appreciate you guys listening. We tried to keep this one shorter. It still was about an hour, but it's 15 minutes less than last time. So we'll knock it down next week too. But all right. I think we're good to go. Are you good?
We're good to go. Thank you guys for listening, and we'll see you next week.
Bye, guys.